Hey there, my name's Jay. Welcome to my booth. I work in VoiceOver, and I do a fair amount of audiobook narration as well. So I thought I'd talk about a few things about audiobooks in these next couple of videos. But first, how audiobook auditions work. If they differ at all from regular VoiceOver auditions, whatever a regular VoiceOver audition might be. Truth be told, audiobook auditions aren't too different in what they're getting at than other auditions. The author and publishing house are just looking to hear how your voice sounds on the material, what your narration style brings to the book in question, and if it's what they're looking for and what it might bring to the work. On average, it's about 2 to 5 pages of material, and that translates to about 4 to 10 minutes of recorded content. But between fiction and nonfiction, there's some slight differences in what the author and publishing house might be looking for. With fiction, usually if there's dialogue in the book, they'll throw that in there, a passage of that, to hear how you'll handle character interactions, how you'll choose to differentiate the characters if you're the kind of narrator that does really different voices and makes each character really distinct and unique, a la Jim Dale of the Harry Potter series. Or if you're the kind of narrator that relies on the text and just uses really subtle intonation shifts or pacing changes between characters without doing crazy voices for each and every character to make them different. And both are great options. It's just whatever you are comfortable with and whatever the author is looking for as well. They'll also listen for if there's particular content in the book that will be important to hear how you'll handle it, obviously. But what I mean by that specifically is if there's like a fight scene in the book, a chase scene, a giant battle, maybe a steamy romance scene, they might throw something like that in there just to hear how you'll handle it, and also to see if you're comfortable with the material. More often than not, production companies and conscientious authors will throw that kind of stuff in there just so that you as a narrator know that it's present in the book. If that kind of thing isn't made evident in the audition, or even if it's just hinted at, I'll still ask for clarification if there's any content that might be sensitive in the book that I should be aware of before I sign the contract. That's, of course, if they choose to go with me. And that's just a personal thing for me that I like to know what I'm getting into before I sign up for it. And it also is a mark of professionalism, I think, when you ask that up front. Then for nonfiction auditions, there's not too much to them except that usually that's different from fiction, that is, except if the book is really dense, if it's technical, if it's got really difficult word pronunciations or things like that, they'll be looking to hear that you can handle that, sound knowledgeable like an expert, and that you're willing to get the pronunciations right, because it's your responsibility as the narrator to look those up, make sure you're saying them right, and say them right. Because after all, with nonfiction books, these are written by experts in the field. Some of them have really fancy degrees and stuff, and if you're narrating it, well, you may not have that degree, chances are you don't, but you got to sound like you do, and you got to make the information clear to the listener, as if you were that expert. So sounding that way and calm, casual, confident is usually what they're looking for in my opinion. Now, insofar as where to look for audiobook auditions, there are a few great websites to sort of get your start and dip your toes in the water and get a few credits under your belt. And then after you've got a little bit of a portfolio to show around, you can start reaching out to specific audiobook publishers that then will put you on their roster, and they'll reach out to you directly if something fits you. So the first site that's a good place to go is acx.com. This is Audible's sort of direct open source matchmaking service where authors can post their book to be published by any narrator such as yourself, and it'll go directly to Audible. And so you just make a profile on here, read any old book that's lying around the house, and you've got a profile started, and then you can start auditioning for any number of books. They've got filters here, so if you're interested in specific genres, you can filter out things there. And then there's a range of compensations that you can put. In my experience, royalty share is never really something to go into, with the exception of maybe your first book or two just to get experience. With royalty share, you're not going to get paid for the book, basically. You're accepting to do it for free. Royalty share plus, they'll pay you a really reduced rate, which I did for my first book, and it was okay. And then the scale here, usually this is beginners, this is intermediate, and then if you're pretty darn experienced, you can start doing books that are in this price range. But these type of budgets rarely show up on this website. Usually it's in the $50 to $100 per finished hour range. And what an audition looks like here, click on it. It'll give you a breakdown. The rights holder is usually the author themselves. And they'll just say some brief things. There's a breakdown as to what they're looking for specifically. You can see if the book's actually popular here. Some books are just authors wanting their thing published, and some are more serious. This looks like a sort of middle-of-the-road option. And then on the Audition tab here, you click on that, and they'll have what they want you to read here. This will range in length, but and they've also got a few pronunciation notes here. So I would just read that, upload it to this here, put a message about who I am, why I think I fit their book, and throw my hat in the ring. Another good website to look at is Findaway Voices. I haven't found tremendous success here because you can't really audition for projects. Authors have to reach out to you directly. So your demos are a little bit more important to have refined on this website, but you can still get some hits here. So it's good to just have a profile active, and maybe somebody will reach out to you. Ahab is Penguin Random Houses and all of their subsidiaries. This is where they'll post looking for talent. So these tend to be more professional audiobooks relative to the other two websites, and it's the same process here as far as auditioning goes. Then the last couple websites are Upwork and Fiverr. Occasionally, as you can see here, there's Read Aloud a Picture Book. So somebody's looking to have a picture book read aloud. The budgets here are nothing. This would be more of a get some notches on your belt, figure out your workflow. And then once you've got a few notches on your belt and a bit of a portfolio behind you, you can start reaching out to these audiobook publishers. This is just a list for authors when they want their books published. But usually these websites and companies have tabs that narrators can submit themselves for consideration to be on the roster. And if you don't hear anything, these are the kinds of places that every 6 months, just give them another poke, see if they have room in their roster now, or maybe you might have more experience, or you've updated your setup, something like that. And just throw your hat in the ring. That's all that goes into it, and I hope this was helpful. As always, if you've got any questions about this or anything else in the field or just generally, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Until then, toodles.